Hello everyone and welcome to the recap of the second panel from Hell. We don't have patch notes available just yet, and the estimated patch release is sometime this week. So without further delay, let's get into the recap. First off, I just want to remind everyone that Lae'zel's stream was pretty choppy this time around, so I apologize on the quality of what we have. So for Sven and the team, there is a lot of work going into this next patch. They said that it'll be as big as every other patch combined in terms of quantity. However, for us as the players, we gotta look at pretty much everything it contains. The delays, of course, are because they are squashing a few final bugs before releasing it to us, and also are going to be shrinking the gigs downloaded on all future updates after this big one. We, of course, got a wonderful rendition of Down by the River by Alina Gingertail at the start of the stream, a heartfelt montage message from many different Lae'zel employees, and a quick update on the Divinity board game and Divinity graphic novel. And also, congratulations are in order for the team as they now have grown up to over 300 people working on the game, with a brand new 6th studio in Guildford, just outside of London. Guildford, of course, is a major game development hub in the UK and will be an important location for bringing in even more talented and hardworking people. A few of them actually have already worked on stuff like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. And if you are hoping for a chance to work with the team, the Guildford location will eventually have job postings available up on Lae'zel's website, so keep an eye out for that. Here's a list of some minor updates. There is now a loaded dice option that will increase your luck slightly in an effort to prevent getting back-to-back bad rolls. The Speak with Dead spell has been improved. It now has extra dialogue, better body highlighting for targeting, and if they have something to say, they will light up. Additional SFX, additional VFX, and additional cinematics where some may not have been before. Cutscenes in general got updated camera angles and lighting, as well as new cutscenes being added in general. Quality of life improvements for the torch usage. You can now target portraits. Multiplayer will now have a more stable connection for players, and finding a party should be easier, and you can also see each other's inventory. There's now a button for fleeing from combat if you are far away enough from hostiles, but it'll send you to camp and it can only be used once per person. In general, we're going to be getting a lot of UI improvements. There will also be improved pathfinding. Githyanki characters will now have proper racial weapons. Flaming Fist characters will now have shields with their symbols on it. The combat logs will now have additional info on player conditions. You can now disable traps by double-clicking on them if you have a kit for it. Herbs and mushrooms no longer take bonus actions to use. Superior dark vision has been increased. Stinking Cloud no longer affects items. Metal doors are no longer vulnerable to slashing damage. Multiple hunter marks can now be applied to the same target. Hellish Rebuke can no longer be blocked by terrain. Dash can now double stack. Dash and Disengage no longer have cooldowns. Warlock characters can no longer use Armor of Shadows if they're already wearing normal armor. You can no longer summon a companion or a familiar on top of another player. The ring known as the Sunwalker's Gift will now grant dark vision. Arcane Ward now gets 2 times the wizard level plus your intelligence modifier to your temporary hit points. Hook horrors can now silence you. Camera work in general is still being improved. Potions now activate when thrown at someone instead of dealing damage. And our good boy Scratch now has a nice new collar. Outside of all of that, the big reveal was, of course, the Druid class. We got to see a lengthy demo of the class in action, and things are looking pretty good for it. They want the Druid class to bridge the gap between wizards and clerics, since they're naturally a very versatile class. Between the dialogue with Sven and the demo itself, this is everything I could gather is coming in the patch regarding the Druid and other additions to the game. To start things off with the Druid class, it looks like we'll be getting 8 wild shape forms. First is a badger that can burrow into the ground. Second is a giant spider that can shoot webs, and other spiders won't be hostile towards you when you're transformed. Third, a dire wolf that can use Inciting Howl. Fourth is a cat form that increases stealth and can get the attention of enemies. Fifth is a dire raven that has amazing flight capabilities in place of a jump mechanic and can blind enemies with rend vision. Sixth is a bear form with an AoE taunt, which can be a regular bear or a polar bear depending on the specialization you choose, which we'll get into later. 7 is a deep wrath from the Underdark that can ram enemies and conjure dancing lights. And lastly, number 8, an Intellect Devourer. This one wasn't shown during the demo, but it appeared in their short Druid reveal clip. Unlike the other wild shapes that have 2 abilities each, the Intellect Devourer seems to have a large number of different things it can do, one of them being a synaptic discharge that can deal psychic damage to a target. Based on the animation used for this wild shape, it's safe to say that this is the Druid class's designated Illithid ability that we get during Act 1 if we pursue the Parasite's powers. Based on a discussion between Sven and Jeremy Crawford, the principal rules designer of Dungeons & Dragons, on Druids between D&D and Baldur's Gate 3, we can assume that a number of other wild shape forms will be coming in the far future, but for the time being, we will have these 8 to look forward to. Except for dinosaurs. Sven said there won't be any dinos in general for Druids. We also learned that Druids will have 2 different Druid circles that they can choose to specialize in. Druids of the Land will get emphasis on nature magics, and Druids of the Moon will get emphasis on wild shape abilities. And Moon Druids, of course, will have access to being a polar bear instead of a regular bear. Wild shape in general will be dismissible as a free action while being governed by wild shape charges that are also recoverable per short rest. They want us as the player to have the freedom to change shape mid-fight if we wanted to. As a side note, it looked like a few of the larger wild shapes might have the ability to self-heal. And in general, Druids can talk to other animals while in animal form, sometimes getting unique dialogues. But in general, you won't be able to talk to strangers while in animal form, only companions who already know you. A number of new spells were shown off during the demo as well, some Druid specific and some not. First up is the Protection from Poison spell that can neutralize all poisons affecting the target, granting advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and grants resistance to poison damage. The Enhance ability that lets you magically enhance an ally with one of 6 options. One is Cat's Grace. The target gains advantage on dexterity checks and only take half damage from falling. Eagle Splendor. Target gains advantage on charisma checks. Fox's Cunning. Target gains advantage on intelligence checks. Bear's Endurance. Target gains advantage on constitution checks and gains temporary hit points. Bull Strength. Target gains advantage on strength checks and its carrying capacity is doubled. The 6th one seems to be an owl, and from what I could dig up, the tooltip for this one didn't appear, but it's a safe bet that this one grants advantage on wisdom checks. In general, some of these have secondary benefits and some don't. Although it's possible these could change in the future, this is what we have for now. This next spell is called Moonbeam. You call down a silvery beam of pale light, and any creature that enters the beam or starts their turn in it takes 2d10 radiant damage. Successful saving throws only take half damage from the beam, and casters can use an action to move the beam up to 18 meters. Flaming Sphere summons a Flaming Sphere that deals 2d6 fire damage to nearby enemies and objects as a flaming aura. It also sheds bright light within 6 meters and dim light up to an additional 6 meters. Successful saving throws yield half damage from the aura. Concentration by the caster is required to control it. The sphere is immune to damage. It can jump. It's heavy enough to destroy traps by rolling over them. Abilities like Shove and Thunderwave can push it. And the sphere itself can also ram into an enemy or object to deal 2d6 fire damage. The victim can also take half damage on successful saving throws for this one. Needless to say, this spell is pretty silly and powerful. Produce Flame seems to be a new cantrip that creates a flickering flame in your hand. It sheds a bright light within 3 meters and can deal 1d8 fire damage when thrown. If you throw the flame in the same turn that it was summoned, it doesn't take an action. However, extinguishing it or throwing it on a different turn will cost an action. And our trusty Shillelagh spell comes back, allowing you to imbue your staff or club weapon with nature's power. It counts as a magical weapon, deals 1d8 plus 3 bludgeoning damage, and uses your spellcasting ability for attack rolls. Thorn Whip strikes a creature with a thorny vine-like whip, dealing 1d6 piercing damage, and pulls the creature 3 meters closer to you if it is larger or smaller in size. Spike Growth lets you shape a piece of ground into hard spikes. A creature walking on the spikes takes 1d4 piercing damage for every 1.5 meters it moves. The spikes do count as difficult terrain, halving a creature's movement speed when walked through. Entangle creates vines sprouting from the ground, turning it into difficult terrain as well, and possibly entangling creatures within it. Entangled creatures cannot move, but an ally can use its help action to try and tear away the vines. And lastly, the old reliable Goodberry. This allows you to conjure 4 magical berries for yourself or a companion. Creatures who eat a berry regain 1d4 hit points. The berries appear in the targeted creature's inventory and disappear after a long rest. And with that last spell, wraps up everything we got to see during the second panel from Hell. I think this is all looking really good. The Druid class looks really fun and strong, and so far I can't wait to try it. However, there is one final thing left on my mind. If we throw good berries at an ally, will they auto-heal the same as if we had thrown a potion at someone? Food for thought. Let me know what you guys thought about everything down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay safe out there.